Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. This is how gangsters wear their hats. Nah, I'm playing. Let me get it right. Okay, so man, I have to say before we get into anything, I appreciate you guys watching my stuff so much. I've been having so much success over these past couple of days, and I'm about halfway there with my subscribers. Speaking of subscribing, if you appreciate my content, please subscribe. Like I said, I'm halfway there. I just need the second half of that, and I'm almost there with my watch hours. So keep it going. I appreciate it very much, guys. Salamat, merci beaucoup, obrigado, grazie, whatever else, muchas gracias, everything. And like I always say, if I'm not speaking your language in any of my videos, and you want me to specifically speak something that you speak, let me know, and I will get that language learned for you. At least how to say a couple words. And as always, at the end of the video, I have the answer to the previous chess puzzle, and I have a brand new chess puzzle for you guys. But I have a good one here for you, and it is Wesley versus Daniil Dubov from the 11th round of the Airthings Champions Chess Tour. And so right now, Wesley Hikaru Nakamura, and Magnus Carlsen are all tied for first. So it's anybody's game, really. But if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have here for this game. Okay, so we got an E4. All right, so we got E5. So we have the king's pawn game. So knight to F3. We got knight to C6, bishop to B5. We got A6, and we have bishop to A4. Now, as a lot of you guys know that know a little bit about chess, a guy named Paul Morphy back in the mid 1800s, he was killing it. He was definitely an unofficial world champion in his time. But this was the way that he most liked dealing with the Ruy Lopez. So this actually is named after him. So this is the Ruy Lopez, the Morphy variation. And because as you guys know, I mean, you can always trade here. Then usually D would take. You can just continue your development that way. So just whatever you prefer. And so we have knight to F6. We have castles. And of course, we're not giving the pawn away. Because if the pawn is captured, I mean, we're going to have some D4s. And then we got rook to E1 coming. So the knight is going to be pinned to the king. And so we see B5 knocking that bishop back. So we have bishop back to B3. Bishop to C5. We have A4. And we have a rook to B8. We have C3. And now it's not completely lost. But this is a very, very strong opening for white. So you have to tread very lightly in this particular situation because, like I said, white is pretty clearly winning. You're up about a pawn's worth, and usually if you're up that much, as long as you don't make any major mistakes, you should be able to kind of coast that into a win, because it is saying at some point you're going to be winning a pawn. And so we'll see when that might take place here. So we have D6, we got D4, the most logical pawn push. And so we see bishop back to B6. We got pawn takes B5, pawn takes B5. We have knight to A3, just directly attacking, that pawn on B5. And so Dubov actually ignores it. And so you see knight takes B5. And in this particular video, I have 3 different points where I want you guys to stop the video and see if you can guess the move. And this is one of those points here. As black, if you want to go ahead and pause the video and see what you would play here, catch back up with us in a second. Okay, cool. So to show you what was actually played in the game, which is the strongest move of the position, is bishop to G4. But backing up, some of you guys might have been thinking, now my king is castled, so there's not really any problems taking this pawn. Where the first part of that, you would be right. But unfortunately, in this particular situation, if you do take the pawn, the 2 things you have to be paying attention to is now you have an undefended knight here, and you also have an undefended knight here, and you can exploit that with bishop to D5. So taking the pawn in this position would actually lose an entire piece. So your most logical move after this would be to, because you're losing one of the rooks, or you're losing one of the knights. So the thing about it is, if you're going to lose a piece, you want to try to go down swinging as best you can. So knight takes F2 is the best possible way to do that, because it causes the most damage anywhere. So we'd see rook takes F2, knight back to E7, attacking that bishop, and we'd see bishop back to B3. And so, you know, as you can see, you're up an entire piece. The pawn count, you're down a pawn, but you are up an entire piece. You know, that's not a bad thing at all. And so going back to what we had in the game, we had bishop to g4, and we had rook to e1. All right. And so we have bishop takes f3. We have pawn takes f3. You definitely didn't want to go queen takes here because you have a lot of issues in the center of the board. You know, these pieces are all kind of trained on this point. So once you have trades and stuff, you're gonna have some pretty big weaknesses here. So you know, taking with the pawn was definitely better. So we have knight to h5, and we have king to h1. So queen to f6, and even though you're down a pawn, it does kind of seem like black is actually doing pretty good here, because they have completed their development, and they have a nice little attack going. I mean, this knight, you know, has a possibility of maybe kind of trying to pop in there and f4, and you know, maybe you can push like f5 and stuff like that. So even though it looks very appealing, white is doing very well here. So we have bishop to e3 just in time to be able to, you know, protect the d4 square. And so we see pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4, and we have bishop to a5. And so we have rook to g1. So rook takes b5, and we have bishop to a4. And so we see rook takes b2, we see bishop takes c6, and we have bishop to b6. And so, you know, it looks, like I said before, you know, with black's position, it does look like, you know, black is very active. You know, they have this rook on the 7th, which generally is a really good thing. You know, this bishop is attacking the queen's, you know, nice and centralized and stuff like that. But white is doing very well. So we see rook to g4, and we see g6. And this is actually the novelty of the game. G6 has never been played before. My comments on g6 you want to be very careful when you're opening up a color complex around your king. And as you can see, you know, you have a lot of dark squares around your king that now require protection by pieces. And the unfortunate thing about the situation is the fact that this dark square bishop is all the way over here. So usually when you have like a fianchetto situation, you want the bishop to be guarding the squares in front of your king so that there isn't any penetration with the pawns or the pieces. And so, like I said, I mean, you have this bishop way over here, so it's not really influencing the king side as far as the safety goes. So we have f4. You know, white is definitely trying to create, you know, some type of a hook situation here, so they can try to pry open this king side here, maybe bring bishop back over here, so you can, you know, kind of pin this pawn down. So we have rook to b4, adding so much pressure, you know, to the d4 point. So we go ahead and protect that with rook to a4. And after rook takes a4, we got queen takes a4, and we have knight to g7. And so we have bishop to d5. Like I said, you know, pinning this. So now this pawn is pinned to the king. So, you know, you have some possibilities of, you know, maybe doing some takes and pushing pawns and stuff and trying to pry this king's position open. So we have king to h8. And so we have h3, just making sure that we have that rook defended here. And so queen to e7. And actually in this position, it is pretty dead drawn. It is pretty dead drawn. And so, you know, if you basically just continue to play, you know, pretty accurately, you know, the rest of the game, this would end up being a draw. That's not what the result is. It's a decisive win. But like I said, I mean, you know, even though you had a very, you know, you have a really, really good position, Wesley so did allow Daniil Dubov to, you know, kind of climb and get this camera here hooked up. He did kind of allow him to climb back into the game. And so we see f5. We got pawn takes f5, pawn takes f5, and we have knight takes f5. So bishop to g5, forcing f6. That's the literal only move that you can do. You can't move the queen anywhere because that's not going to be, that's just going to be completely losing. So we see rook to e4. Trying to, you know, knock this queen over. And I did say I was going to, there's 3 pauses, but I honestly can't remember where the other pause is. I don't know. Anyway, continuing on. We see queen to g7. And it is actually, this is one of the pauses. I remembered. But this is actually like a horrendous blunder. It allows a really, really nice tactical shot It kind of seems like it attacks the bishop, but the bishop isn't really something you need to worry about in this particular situation. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video real quick and see what you would play here as white, it's a monstrous shot, a really monstrous shot here. Okay, cool. So for those of you that found rook to e8, it just kind of seems like it's a really obvious move. You know, now if you're looking at moves other than moving the bishop away, it does seem obvious. Because, you know, it's like you have this rook on this open file, you got the queen defending that square. So if you can shake, you know, thinking about this bishop, then, you know, rook to d8 is a very real possibility. So we have bishop to a7. And now, just to show you the other variations, if you were to try to take this bishop some kind of way, you know, let's say after rook to e8, you did go ahead and snap the bishop off, you know, you would be seeing queen to e8. And there's really nothing that can be done right here because, I mean, either checkmate's coming or you're losing some heavy material. And now, so the crazy thing about it, this is how you know it's really, really bad, because this is actually the top computer suggested move. It's queen to e7. So basically just putting your queen in the way just to get taken for free. You know, just losing the rook. So anytime you start like throwing away your queen, like the computer says, hey, yeah, throw your queen away, you know it's like, it's horrible. It's horrible bad. And then the other one, so after rook to e8, if we did see queen takes, we would see rook takes f8, king to g7, only move. And then the rook would come around to g8, check. And then we would see king to h6, the rook would take on g5, pawn would take g5, and you see queen to e8. And as you can see, you have a queen and a bishop versus a knight and a bishop. And that's not really an equal situation. So, like I said, we do have rook to e8, we have bishop to a7. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just go through. Like, I don't remember the other pause point. It might have been here, but I don't know. Anyway, we paused it twice. That's good enough. All right, so we do have queen to d7. You know, basically you're just getting in situations where every single piece that you have as black is becoming overloaded. The queen is trying to make sure that they protect this square here and the rook. And this queen just basically just deflects and just messes everything up. Not only is it attacking this knight, but it's trying to force the queen away from, you know, that particular situation. So we have h6, but unfortunately h6 doesn't really do anything. The bishop was never a concern anyway. So we have queen to c8, just exclaiming the fact that we have this, you know, this rook attacked. So we don't really have a choice. We have to take with rook takes e8. After queen takes e8, got king to h7, and then we have bishop takes f6. And it's in this position that Daniil Dubov resigns, as great as he is. There's just nothing to do. There's nowhere to move the queen, because if the queen moves anywhere, not only is it just going to get took for free, but there is checkmate here. There's also checkmate here. And there's numerous checks along this rank to the king. So the king is in a box. The king cannot move. So there's nowhere to put the queen. You know, of course, that's a take. You know, that's a take or just a check. And then the king doesn't really have nowhere to go. There's just, like I said, there's just nowhere for the king, for the queen to go. You know, of course you can't take here because there's checkmate. So there's just too many checkmating possibilities. So the queen has just continuously been overloaded every single move. Okay, so moving on to the chess puzzles. The one that I gave you guys before. And like I did say in the last video, I did get this one wrong myself. I only look at these for like maybe a couple of seconds before I actually get the answer. I don't really sit there and put a lot of thought into it, but I did mess this one up. But the thing you should notice in the situation is that this queen is undefended. So that means that you should be able to try to move the bishop somewhere to attack the queen. One of the moves that I was considering was this move here, and I was kind of thinking I was trapping the queen, but you know, after the queen moves, you move the other rook over, the queen can nestle itself right here, and so that's not a good situation. So we have bishop to h7, and that's just a one mover. So basically what that does is it discovers an attack on the queen, and then if the queen was to take, you would just have check here, and that's checkmate. There's really nothing to be done. And of course, if you make any other move, the queen just goes away. So checking this next one here. This one was like super impossibly hard. So I'm gonna be really surprised if anybody gets this. This looks like it's like something like this looks like it's something for like Stockfish to solve. But Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So this is the one here, and this is actually a double attack. Is it double attack? Yes, it's a double attack. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, that is that. And so that's the video, guys. And I'll be doing some more videos here coming up pretty soon. So if you want a certain game, let me know. I'm pretty focused on Wesley So. Wesley So is where I'm getting like a lot of my watch time and subscriptions and stuff like that. So I'm pretty focused on him. That's kind of where the money is. Like I said, I'm almost there with the watch hours. I'm almost there with the subscribers. So, you know, if you guys can throw me some more subs and some more, you know, watch time or even a donation or two, it'll just keep me going and doing my thing. So it's very much appreciated, guys. And I will see you guys in the next video. All right.